You are in for a treat today. I am so excited to introduce you to Elaine Stageberg. We have so much to talk about. Elaine is a mother of many and the owner with her husband of Black Swan, which is an investment real estate company worth millions. And they did this themselves. It's absolutely beautiful to hear her story about overcoming limiting beliefs, growing in mindset, parenting while building an absolute mega business. And of course, you can check out the opportunities to work with Elaine, her husband, and Black Swan. I will put all of the ways to get a hold of her in our show notes. And I am just so ecstatic for you to get to hear from this woman who has moved mountains and continues to pave the way and trailblaze in the entrepreneur world. Okay, like I said, we are here with Elaine Stageberg. She is an MD, MHA, a psychiatrist, mother of four. Oh my goodness, you beat me.
I love it. The chaos makes life better.
We're going to get into that because I'm like going crazy right now. But also the owner of Black Swan Real Estate, and I can't wait to hear more about all of it because I was looking at your business this morning, showing it to a few friends. Like it is so cool, so exciting. But first, give us your background. I'm fascinated by professional background and where you're at now, but I'm sure that there's a lot that led you even to that. So fill us in.
Yeah, excellent way to start. Even with my own self, I wonder how life ended up the way it has. I have to start by saying I absolutely love the name and premise of this podcast, the next level, or level after next. I feel like in life, especially recently, as I've really slayed through a lot of my goals, a lot of it has been knowing that there is a next level and then reaching it and believing that there's a next level. And I think early on in my journey, I maybe wasn't sure if the next level was there or how to reach it. And that maybe slowed some things down. And now acknowledging that there's always a next level for all of us, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, and then saying, how do I get there? And presupposing that it exists. So
Love that. Thank
yeah,
you.
absolutely love that. And that segues really nicely into my introduction. So I'm a physician and a psychiatrist by training. Really thought that would be my career. I don't know many people that would go to medical school and residency and all that that entails and then decide not to practice purposefully. But that's how the cookie crumbled for me. As I was doing my medical training, I was married. My husband and I were working on those four children. We were also working on financial freedom for ourselves. So he was a career technologist. I was in medicine. We had reason to believe that we would have large salaries in the future, and we wanted to really steward that wealth very well. We both came from poverty and wanted our journey to be quite different. So we started doing real estate investing, buying single family homes, fixing them up, renting them out, repeating that over and over. One thing led to another. Our business really grew some legs, became something that we needed to dedicate more of our time to. So first, my husband left his career to run our real estate investments. And then we created a property management company so that we could manage investments for others. And then I decided to step away from medicine to run our company as well. So today we both run our company full time. We have those four beautiful children, hoping for more children, more chaos. We have a team of 27 full-time employees that we lead and guide in the management of our company. We have about 300 million in real estate assets that we take care of and several hundred passive investors that work with our company. So it's been a crazy journey. Exactly the name of the podcast. What's the next level and the next level and the next level? And if someone had told me 10 years ago that this would be today, I would have said, like, I think you've mixed up my file or something like that. But here I am. And
Ah,
kind of
you
living.
are the actual definition of level after next. And talking about more kids on top of it. I'm like bowing down to you right now. This is so cool. And so, first, like, what I really like, my dying need to know as you guys were thinking of this, right? Did you think you were crazy? What was that conversation like when you're like, are we gonna, should you leave your job? Are we gonna pursue this? And then there's like the dreaming, right? What it could be, and then the back down to earth. Okay, what's really real? And I think that when it comes to what I try and talk to people about is come back down to earth. That's your brain doing all the wrong things and imagining what could go wrong and trying to protect you, but it's all BS.
100% agree. 100% agree. I think you really described it quite well there. It's easy to speak retrospectively about the journey. At the time, it was exactly like you're describing, some dreaming, some thinking, some what ifs, some planning, and then lots of fear. I think especially leaving medicine, that was a big identity shift, lots of fears there. And then, but one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And exactly as you mentioned, reminding ourselves that the human brain is wired to say no. The human brain is wired to say, stay in the cave, stay safe. There might be predators out there. There might be a river that sweeps you away, whatever those things are that come from evolution and living out in the wild. And that's not really true today, right? The dreams that most of us set will not result in life or death, but our brain doesn't quite know the difference. And so it's up to us to remind ourselves of those dreams, to surround ourselves with people who are empowering, who, as soon as we start to come back down to earth, like you say, hey, no, go out there, go do that. It's totally okay to get out of the cave. Yes, it's scary, but go out there, find your way, and put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. And it seems as though, like, the more that we level up and help people, we get surrounded by those people. It's like your vibe attracts your tribe, right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, when you rock and roll with those people, it's like they're never gonna be like, okay, yeah, climb back down the mountain.
Exactly.
And I love that. So you now, like, where are your investments? Are they all within the US? Are they close to you? Are they wherever? How do you go about finding them? I know, like, I want to talk more about mindset, but I'm also very interested in this.
So our real estate investments are all long-term residential real estate, so single-family homes and apartment buildings that people live in. We don't do any short-term rentals, office, commercial, things like that. We might do some of those things in the future, but for right now, our niche is long-term residential real estate. Most of it is here in Rochester, Minnesota. This is where we live, where we raise our children. It's what we consider to be our headquarters. And then our second headquarters is Tacoma, Washington. So we have several apartment communities there. We're on the business side, we really believe deeply in vertical integration. So if I have kind of one main business tidbit to share with people, it's to think about the value pipeline that you're providing for your customers and think about how it could be possible that you can control as many pieces in that value pipeline as possible to drive up control and quality and consistency. So we raise all of our own capital. We work with our investors, we raise capital, we do all of our own acquisitions. We do all of our own renovations and construction. We do all of our own property management, and then we return capital back to our investors. So it's a very vertically integrated model, very different than what is typically seen in private equity real estate investing. And we like forging our own way and doing things a little bit differently and really putting the needs of our investors first, the needs of our residents first. And to circle back to who we are as people, leaving technology and medicine, really wonderful careers to run our company, there really had to be something compelling, and it had to be about way more than money because we had really good careers that provided for us financially. So it's about providing for our investors, providing for our residents, really changing the model in property management and private equity to bend more towards justice and trying to do that at scale. So we have about $1/3 billion in assets that we control. Our goal is to get to $1 billion in 5 years. And our lifetime goal is to be a household name the way, Warren Buffett is a household name. It's a big goal, but I think we can make it.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was looking over like the business plan through your website this morning, and I'm like, this is incredible. And I'm like, wait, she's a doctor? She's what? No, it's so smart and it's so amazing. And you talk about all these goals, but then also having come from poverty, which we haven't gotten into, but I have a mentor who always says, be the one, like in the line of people, all your lineage, be the one who changes the future for everybody. The one that, like, the great grandkids are like, and then they did this. And so many of us have those, like, in the family looking back and whatever, but it's like there's always a chance where you get to be the one again, even if your grandma was the one. And I
Yeah.
like, you guys are the ones. Like, you are, it's like creating something amazing for really anybody and everybody, but creating this beautiful legacy for your children as well. And that's huge.
Yeah. Thank you. I think when I look back at my husband and I's childhood, they were very similar in that we both really struggled with poverty. Maybe my husband more than I. His family struggled with homelessness. Our family never was quite that troubled. The one thing we had was a lot of love. So I lived with my aunt and uncle for many years. My father was in jail. My mother wasn't around. All of the assumptions that you might make about a childhood like that, but there was a lot of love in that household and a lot of emphasis on education. And then for my husband, his father was never around. His mother was both very physically ill and very mentally ill, which is what led to her economic struggles, the homelessness, the difficulty providing for him. But she really loved him. And so, very early on, the two of us learned that we needed to be very responsible. We needed to be very grown up. We needed to make grown up decisions at an earlier age than perhaps we should have been. Should is a terrible word, but earlier than children ought to be. But we were surrounded by love in doing so. And so then when we reached adulthood and we met each other, first of all, we had a magnetism to each other that we understood what we had gone through in childhood and what we envisioned for our own adulthood and for our own children. We really understood that we did not want a life where we struggled with money. But we really understood that we wanted to pass on that love to our children and if anything, our struggle as parents now is how to raise these beautiful children because they everything, right? And so now the question is, how do we give them enough challenge and enough struggle so that they hone their decision-making capabilities and become people of character, despite the fact that their childhoods will be quite easier than our childhood. So that's kind of our challenge as parents. Our parents struggled with financial concerns. We've solved that piece, but now we have to solve for our children. How do we give them enough struggle that they turn out to be good people?
I think to respond to that as a child of, a parent who came from severe poverty, it's all relative. And because you both come from that, I can totally imagine like how, because, and then also my husband and I are growing up it's very different. And so he thinks one way where I think another. And so I understand these different kind of like concerns really, but I think it all comes down to that love. Yeah, I have more than he had, or I had more than he had growing up, but there were still struggles and there were still emotional struggles. And my parents said no sometimes, even though they didn't have to. And so but I can understand that kind of struggle where it's, you guys had so much to hang on to and so many different struggles that are so rare that, yeah, it has to be so different to be raising kids in a world where they're not worried about the little things that you had to worry about. I think that I have no doubt you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. It's definitely the thing that gives us the most passion than the chaos that comes from being in relationship with little human beings that are on their own journey, doing their own thing, have their own strengths, their own weaknesses. They're all so different from each other. That's something early on, someone told my husband and I, parents that have one or two children think that it's all how they're raised, and parents who have a lot of children have enough to catch the variability and realize that it's a lot of how they're born. And at 4, we're able to see they're born quite differently. They've been different since day 1 or day 2 of life. Of that child had that personality very early on, and it gives us so much joy to get to run our company together and really exercise that part of our brain, adult leadership, peer leadership, masterminds, growing our company, but then also get to go home and raise those babies together. It's so fun.
I love that. I love that. It's funny because my husband and I would always have that like conversation. And I remember, especially with our first, it was always like, what nature and nurture and whatever. And then our daughter was born, and we're like, nope, that's who she is. And that's who she's been ever since. And it's so true. And the other thing is, and I would have kept having babies. I'm with you. I wanted as many as possible. My husband was more like, no, like he was adamant that everybody have their own room because he never had his own room growing up. When we built a house and he was like, everybody has to have their own room. I'm like, my brothers were way older. Would have given anything to share a room with. I would share a room with
Yeah,
4 people.
yeah, the cool kids.
Yeah, but I was the thing that really was the most beautiful for me and having kids, and I don't know, like you can probably speak to this even more so, is like I always said we have my animals are going crazy right now. Have the one baby, and it's so simple. There's this triangle of relationships. And then you add another one in, it becomes that square. But you add like at 3, it's like there are so many different relationships going on. I love that so much. To walk in and see my oldest and his sister like snuggling on the couch, and then the next minute, the youngest and the older brother are playing, they're hitting rocks with their baseball bats outside and talking, and it's
Yes.
so fun and so cool. And I was like, the more complicated we can make this web of relationships, the
Absolutely.
better. How old are your kids?
We have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 9-month-old.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
Kind of the main lesson I've learned in parenting, and I credit my husband with this, he's been telling me this since before we ever even had our first baby, is that it's very much co-creation with the universe. And someone can impart a religious belief if there is one there, or a spiritual belief or whatever. But with especially reproduction, whether that's biological reproduction or adoption or fostering, but when you're getting into that very close relationship with other people, like so much of it is out of our control. And he has been telling me since very early on, we get what we get. And, that very much was about like pregnancy and reproduction. I've half of my pregnancies have ended in miscarriage. My most recent miscarriage was at 16 weeks, which was very different than my early miscarriages. We named our little baby Isaiah. So he's like our 5th child. It feels very different than my other 3 early miscarriages. But it extends to living children as well in terms of who they are as people, the struggles that they have, the joys that they have. And that journey is so long. And I totally agree with you. Let's add to the chaos. Let's add what are all the variables that we can throw into this pot and see what magic comes out of it. But it very much is a place for me to practice surrender of I show up as my best self. I show up with my intentions for what I hope for myself as a mother, for what I hope for the number of children that I have or who they become as people. But a lot of it is really out of my control, more so than in other areas of life, more so maybe than in business, where it's a little easier to say, set a goal and then work toward that, say a revenue goal, right? You can say, this is the target, this is the 10-step plan to get to that target, this is the people and the resources that I'm going to put toward that. We have a little more control in, say, the business world than we do in the relationship world. And I find that parenting is a really wonderful, challenging place to practice those skills, that skill of surrender, that skill of showing up and co-creating with the universe, but ultimately knowing that we get what we get. Easier said than done, for sure.
I know. It's funny too. I have a friend who oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to hold on. I'll be cutting this part out. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Was I muted that whole time?
I think so.
I said I'm gonna have to cut this part out. I have a Chihuahua, and she gets along very well with one cat, and then the other cat hates her and tortures her.
Oh,
Oh God, there was something like really great that I was about to say.
co-creation, kind of you get what you get. You kind of have to surrender in parenting.
Oh yes. Okay, so I have one of my best friends had children, were about 40, and she had her 2 recently. And I went down and was taking care of the newborn, right? And I'm like, baby on my hip, like folding laundry, got the little dude dressed, whatever. And she's like, how are you doing this? What is this? And I'm like, this is very easy because I did it alone with 3. And also, I am not worried about any of the stuff that you're worried about right now. I'm not worried about if they learn how to sleep. I'm not worried about if
Mm-hmm.
Seamus hits. Like, I'm not worried about any of it. I'm just like, I can do this.
Yep.
And it's so different from when they are your babies, and every little thing. I remember everything felt so huge.
Mm.
I had some moments where like I was panicked over how do we find what like they're going to be great at. I'm like, what if I was great at water polo? I never did water polo. What if that was my thing? I had no idea, you know? And I was like, I was so worried about it. And like when they would go through a sleep regression, I was so worried they were never going to sleep again or
Mhm.
just started
Mhm.
biting. And I was like, he's going to be a biter. But yeah, I was like frozen with, oh my gosh, what we can't put, how are we going to put them in everything to find out what they love? Then they become their own person and they start to figure those things out themselves. And it's, I miss when they're babies, but in this stage, they're 6, 8, and 10, and watching them like come into own is magnificent,
Absolutely.
unreal. And
Absolutely. I remember a time a few weeks ago with my fourth baby, my little boy, Abram. I had some laundry to do on the weekend and I like dumped the laundry out on the bed and then I took the basket, put a pillow in it, put him in it, put a blanket over his lap, gave him his bottle, and then started doing the laundry and singing to him. So pretty good parenting, like not super neglectful parenting, but I like a minute or two into it, I looked down at him and I started laughing. Like I would never, ever have done that with my first child. Never would I have put my first child in a laundry basket. And this time, and at 4, I'm like, I'm doing great. Like he's getting amazing parenting. He gets to listen to me sing. He's comfy. He's warm. Uh,
yeah, I
and
love,
it's I love that you brought up the ages there. It's very similar in business too. I really think of our business as a child. I love Tony Robbins' model of thinking about business development. All businesses start in infancy. They're born when the owner of the business has that idea, and they go through infancy, toddlerhood, childhood, young adulthood, the prime of the business life, aging, and then death. And it's our hope in business that we can keep a business in prime for a long time or indefinitely and not go toward aging and death. But most businesses follow life cycles, and raising a business is very similar to raising a child, that you put so much love and effort and resources into it in the beginning. And there's a time when you're wondering, is this worth it? What's going to come of this? Am I making the right decisions? All of those things that you were describing. Is the sleep regression going to last forever? Is this problem in the business going to last forever?
yeah,
And then you start to see it take on a life of its own. And then you start to see it produce something. So for us, it's starting to see the returns that we're giving to our investors and the financial freedom that we're creating for other people. And there's this beauty in it that the business has become its own thing. It has its own ideas. It comes up with things that you never would have come up with, even though you're older than the business.
yeah.
The business is its own being. And it's such a blessing to get to be able to go through the stage of my life where I'm raising both my human children and my business at the same time. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of lack of sleep and long days and everything, but man, is it worth it. It's
It's like,
much goodness that comes from it.
I love that metaphor and I love that you're like in it on both sides. And I don't know, that's such an awesome connection. I know that we can't talk all day, even though I would really love to. I'm fascinated and I'm so in awe, honestly, from your parenting to building this business to making the big, huge decisions. Tell me, like, have you guys in this business, was there like the moments where you're like, I don't know if we should do this? And what was it? Or did you never have those moments? What was it? Like, how did you stick with it? Because so many people, they let that fear sink in
Mm.
and they forget about that next level that they wanted. They come back down to earth and it's done. And so I would love to hear kind of how it went for you guys.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. There's two main times that come to mind. The first was getting started. So when we first became real estate investors, my husband and I had gotten married. We both owned our own homes. We decided to move into his home, and I wanted to sell the home that I lived in. We had gotten married. I was planning on quitting my job to go to medical school. I was hoping that children would be coming along. And I really perceived real estate investing to be risky, that we would have another house, another mortgage, another set of maintenance bills, and all of the things that go with property ownership. And ultimately decided, really at my husband's urging, I'm so grateful for his urging there, to rent out that property and give it a try. And it was quite the opposite of all of the risk that I perceived. It was actually additional income because there was a small amount of cash flow every month. The mortgage was getting paid down, the home was growing in value as the years passed. And so I'm so grateful for that push early on to make what I perceived to be a risky choice that actually was a really beautiful choice that led our family to financial freedom, that then allowed us to create this company. And then the second thing that really comes to mind, we've already touched on my husband deciding to leave his career in technology and then me deciding to step back in medicine. Those were obviously huge, but a big step forward in the business of a lot of fear and uncertainty and kind of seeing that next level and making the really conscious decision to go there was when we started working with our passive investors. So we had built our own real estate portfolio. We were completely financially free through the income we were generating in our rental portfolio. And people were coming to us and asking us to help them with their own deals. And we kept saying no. Again, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. And then one day decided that the universe was clearly asking us to do this over and over again. And so decided to help our passive investors, and we're the active partners. So we put the deals together, do all of the renovations, property management, maintenance, and then share out those economic returns with our investors. And now looking back, I couldn't imagine life without this stage of our business because I'm able to see how many people we're able to impact. And I do calls with investors and all across the lifespan, people saying I'm able to cut back on work a day a week so I'm able to be home with the kids, or maybe they're a little later in their journey and they're using their passive income to put a kid through college or help an aging parent. And I'm so grateful that we chose to face the fear and decide to do it, and know that we had this skill and this gift as real estate investors, and that we could impact even more lives if we leaned into the fear.
It's really incredible. And I talk about real estate investing all the time, and it's obviously like it is the best place to be. And as far as investing your money, the stock market's not that great right now.
The stock market has been in a lot of trouble the last year.
But so many people don't have the ability to go and buy a $450,000 home and then turn it around. And I love that this is something that many more people are able to do. And you guys make it so doable. It's brilliant and it's beautiful and it's everything that you guys want it to be and hope it to be. And I don't know, I'm so glad that we got to be in touch.
Thanks.
And I am, like I said, in awe of everything that you do, from the kids to everything else. This business is beautiful. I will be sharing the model, and I, of course, will be putting Elaine's website in all the show notes. But is there anywhere else that people can find you and talk to you and learn from you?
So our main website is meetblackswan.com. That tells a little bit about us, about our business, a link to sign up for our weekly newsletter. We have a very active Facebook community, Real Estate at Scale. I also have my calendar on there. I keep my calendar very open. If anyone wants to block a time to talk about investing or business or parenting, just on people's hearts, I love to connect. So my calendar's right there. It's all at meetblackswan.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is
Absolutely. The pleasure's all mine.
incredible. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I can't wait to stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.